Lift off in 3, 2, 1.
Virginia.
Yes.
Virginia, last name Parrish.
Parrish, yes.
Okay. I have a really good friend, last name Parrish.
Okay.
He's Greek.
Uh-huh.
But every time I see your last name on social media, I immediately think of the Paris girls. One thing the Paris girls would have in common with you, from what I remember, because I've known them since they were little babies. Their dad and me have been good friends for a long time.
Uh-huh.
These girls are strong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really strong. They went to St. A's and they would play soccer, and the seas would part when the Paris girls would come through that, because they would clothesline somebody. They were strong young women, and then they became strong women. So when I see your last name, if it didn't have the SH and if it ended AS,
Yeah.
I would have thought you were related, because I see that in you. The reason I believe we're here today is because I've been a fan of what you put out in the way of health, in your workouts, and just the way you carry yourself. And I'm not a fan of a lot of things. I'm just not. I don't buy into the whole, look at me, I'm a beautiful girl, I come with this much, and I'm so privileged by looking this way that you, Mr. or Mrs. User, get to look at me.
Sure.
Which I think you know what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I do.
With the way things are out there. And with you, I just see something entirely different. Besides the fact that you are all those things, I just think, wow, there's something there. There's a fire that I sense. And I like to, at some point, get into what that is and where that comes from. I also get that you have this need or desire or want to help people better themselves. And I get that, and I sense that that's really innate to who you are, or innate to your experience this far. And I also want to get into how'd you get there with that. So thank you for doing this with me today, a total stranger to you. I think, are you even aware that we're friends on social media? Or you have so many friends that you didn't even have a clue who that...
I didn't until you had messaged me that day.
Look,
so
this is how it goes, right? Because we get to a place where you have so many friends friends, right, in quotations.
Yeah.
You have so many friends that, it's like, who is he? And then because of the business that I've been in for 25 years, which is real estate, my ego assumes that everybody knows who I am because I've been successful at doing that. So with me, it's always, of course she knows who I am. I'm Jerry Pujols. I'm the guy that sells houses.
Yeah.
Which I love the fact that you didn't know who I was, and that you still don't know who I am, but you have a sense of what I'm about now, even though I still have a successful real estate business, and I'm grateful for that. But I also feel a kinship with you, the idea of helping others. But I also reached that decision by realizing that I first had to help myself.
Yeah.
And that maybe we could start there, because helping myself is sort of what I find that is setting me free to truly be able to help others. And I know you talk to a lot of people. I understand that you talk to a lot of people and coach and train people across the country. So with that being said, what is it that you do? How are you doing it? Maybe tell me. And then after you tell us a little bit of that, let's get into, you're not from Napa. I didn't even know that. I just assumed you were a Napa girl, born and bred like not only my daughter, my wife was born and raised here, and her mom was born and raised here. So there's so many generations of Napa people. I'm not one of them because I came here in '87 from 100 years before you were born, from the East Coast. So Virginia Parrish.
Yeah.
Who the hell are you?
Well, that is the question for everybody, I think, is really figuring out who you are. And that's actually part of what I do. And I know that sounds like so like meta, such a grand view, but honestly, so what I do is I help people get their fitness straight. through their nutrition, through workouts, and really through the mindset of how to actually go about that. Because there's a million workouts out there, there's a million diet plans out there, and to be honest with you, a good amount of them would work. But how you actually implement that into your everyday life, and the mindset and the perception that you have surrounding those things, is what is going to actually get you from point A to point B, but then also keep you there as well. And that's the struggle that most people face. And so so a lot of those questions and a lot of that mindset is tackled in the in-between. Here's the plan, but how do you actually implement it? And that's where the coaching comes in. I work with a lot of clients. I have a client in New Jersey, a client in Texas, a client in Washington, all over the country. And a lot of people struggle with that same thing that you were just talking about, knowing how to put themselves first. And to sometimes, especially I've found, not it this way with anyone, but especially women, because I work with mostly women, especially with the online coaching, they really struggle and feel selfish for taking that time for themselves, whether it's a workout or, cooking differently for themselves, anything where they're really, separating themselves out from their families, and really implementing that into their life. And you really have to get deep into, you're worth it. We talk about self-worth. We talk about self-image, how you see yourself. Because if your self-image is low, if you just, have allowed for life to just kind of constantly just beat you down, and, you have these, you're constantly doing things for other people, you end up in this place where you've stopped taking care of yourself. And that makes you feel even worse. And you might be overweight, all these things, and you just don't feel good. So
Can I jump in real quick?
Absolutely, yes.
So I resonated with something that you just said, which is guilt. So I can relate to what it feels now at 56 years old. I can relate to what it feels like to feel guilt about putting yourself first. I think part of my issue has been that my job was to provide, and that was literally my only job. If I died in the process of doing it, then that was the cost of doing business, as long as I provided.
Right.
But then one thing that I learned not that long ago is that my family still needs me, even though they're all grown up, that they still want me around. And they still would be devastated if I left early or earlier than I really needed to.
Right.
So the most selfish thing for me to do was to do nothing.
Absolutely.
So I'm also sort of putting out there that for some of the people that are going to listen to this, some of them are super high achievers, people who are super focused and driven. And they also at times find themselves feeling that guilt of putting themselves last, because as long as they make a lot of money and as long as they can take big vacations and they can go eat a rack of ribs at a high-end restaurant that evening, that becomes the definition of success. And we start to think that that's putting ourselves first. And it becomes a point of diminishing returns, right? We're going in the wrong direction. So I just wanted to say how much I appreciated you saying that, but I also, at least for me, consider that we struggle with that. Men struggle with that too.
Absolutely.
Some might not admit it.
Right. No, I think that's absolutely true, and you see it across the board with really anyone. And I think one of the things that happens a lot of the time is like, when you we all have our thing that sort of gives us that sense of value in the world. And for a lot of men, it's the providing, and for a lot of women, it's the nurturing. And I realize those are very defined gender roles, and there can be a complete mixture of either one, and it's more complex than just that. But we tend to get caught up in those, and we forget our sense of self in those things, and realizing that, no, actually, I have innate value that goes much beyond the things that I do or the people that I relate to, whether it's my job or my family or whatever it might be. And that if I don't take care of that sacred part of me, then all of these other things that are actually really, really important to me actually suffer as well. Like you said, it's one of the most selfish things that you can do is to not take care of yourself because your family does want you. And one of the reasons why I just call it my program, and I mean that in the sense of like everybody has their own program. We all have our own things that we go throughout our day. You know, you wake up and you have a little morning ritual, and we're all programmed, and you know, we have our own little way of doing things. But when you're intentional with your own program, you know, these are the daily habits that I have, that I do, that give me that sense of.
Sort of becomes your practice.
It's your practice. Yeah. And you have that sacred space for yourself. You are actually managing your energy. And when you can manage your own energy, where it's like, no matter externally what is going on around me, whether there's fires to put out at work or fires to put out at home, if I can manage my own internal state and I can show up fully me and able to bring good energy no matter where I go because I've managed my own internal state, that's one of the best gifts you can give to the people around you. Coworkers, your family, your friends, anywhere you go, that's the gift.
I think we're here now. I'm really starting to hear from you how we got here, because it's that authenticity that comes from you that really shines. I mean, I say you look identical to what you look like on social media, which is unheard of because right now everybody would want to filter something. Mm-hmm. Obviously, again, not to over-compliment a young lady, but you don't need to filter because you're very attractive. But what I find interesting is that there is so much more to you in the way that you are not only transparent but authentic. And mm-hmm. that is, I'm learning so much from you right now because that's really all that matters, mm-hmm. is that authenticity. And what you say is why I know we're here.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful. I also want to go into what got you there. Because here, I'm going to just take a guess. It wasn't always perfect. And I'm not saying that it's perfect now, but it wasn't always as streamlined as it is now. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to guess that there was a shit show somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
That you don't get the way that you are without some type of traumatic mm-hmm. or very difficult situation that you overcame, because that's also what I feel.
Yeah.
And I would tell you that you're in a safe place because we share that in common. Mm-hmm. There's only one thing that's gotten us here, mm-hmm. and is hard things. I call it walking through fire.
Yeah.
You've walked through fire. Mm-hmm. Can you go into that? Because I would love for people to get to know you a little bit. I personally want to as well.
Sure.
Hiroshima is here. I'd love for him to get to know you better.
Yeah.
I really would like to continue these discussions and build something to help people. I believe mm-hmm. you can. Yeah. And that's why we're here.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of parts of my story that I could share, but just as far as the authenticity, authenticity is power. A lot of people are really afraid of being vulnerable and sharing their story. And I guess, so my background, I came from a background in ministry, and so there was a little bit of, being able to use stories to help people. And so that's always been part of me, but it's definitely grown in the last 4 years. So I got married at a young age. I grew up in South Dakota, and I grew up in a family that I have 5 sisters. So I come from a family of strong women. I'm the third of 6 girls, and grew up, we didn't have money. We, had some hardships growing up, and didn't always have the best relationships modeled to us. And so I got married really young, and my standard for myself and my relationships was really low. And so I got married when I was 17, and I had 4 kids by the time I was 25. And
we have that in common.
Yeah. So, I from a really young age, I had to grow up really quickly, and I, in a lot of ways, it was really the thing that I wanted most anyway. I was a good student, and I had ideas of what I wanted to do as a career, and then life kind of took a little bit of a turn, but I really loved having a big family. I still love having a big family, and but there's trials that you learn through that, and being a mom at such a young age. But I would say over the last 4 years, the big thing that has been the hugest change and the most difficult thing in my life to date has been going through a divorce after 20 years of marriage. And that's simply put, but there's a lot of things that that come with that, dealing with the aftermath of a broken relationship, of what you think that your life is going to look like. Did I ever expect to be 41 and single? Heck no. And having, and coming from South Dakota and living in a place that honestly feels, it doesn't so much anymore, but years ago when I first moved here, I felt like I was living in a foreign land. It's culturally much different. Geographically, it's quite a ways away from where my family is. So really almost having, feeling like a bit of a pioneer in some ways, here with my kids, and then, really dealing with a lot of the family dynamics that change after you've gone through a divorce and your kids. And there's been just so many things that I've gone through. And the reason why I share so much on social media about, different parts of my story is just because I know that there has to be some sort of redemptive thing that has to do with the pain that I've experienced. And so I get kind of stubborn about it, like, okay, if I'm going to go through this and I'm going to come out better on the other side of this, I'm going to bring a hell of a lot of people with me too.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to waste my pain. I don't want to waste anything that I've experienced, not learn from it, and not bring other people with me. So every time that I go through something new, I'm like, okay, here we go. But my perspective on it is, all right, so now I just have another facet of a way to help somebody else. So there's a lot of hardships that I've been through. I'm not really sure which one, where to start with them. But through the whole story, I guess the overarching story is being able to take extreme responsibility in situations where you want to maybe feel like a victim, and then also just refusing to be a victim, and then also with that, even not just that, but how to choose joy in the midst of all of that. One of my favorite quotes is by a poet. His name's Jack Gilbert, and I'm not going to quote it exactly, but he talks about the stubbornness of gladness, and to make, he says something to the effect of, to make injustice the only focus of our attention is to praise the devil. And
I love that.
To, I guess I get a little bit passionate about that, where it's like, even through all of this, I'm not just going to come out having survived. I'm going to come out of it better, and I'm going to come out of it joyful. And that's a lot of people, and especially you can see it since COVID. A lot of people have been through a lot of stuff, and so being able to, sort of reach down into a pit and pull somebody out feels really, really good. And it makes it, to me, feel like that it's worth it, to having...
Don't you find that? But so you started by doing that for yourself.
Started by doing that for myself, yeah. So having gone through, 20 years of marriage, not taking care of myself, I had never worked out before, really. I considered myself not an athlete. I was the choir girl. I was the student. I wasn't the athlete. And when back in like 2016, I believe it was, I started taking classes at Napa Valley College. Just because we were actually in marriage counseling, and the marriage counselor recommended that I start doing things that I loved. And I had dropped out of school when I was 17 to get married, and it was a big part of my insecurity that I had never finished high school. And so she said, well, what do you want to do?
Well, we have that in common too, just so
Is
you know.
that right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I dropped out in 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's,
So there's
a lot of commonalities.
There's a lot of commonalities.
Yeah.
I love it.
So it was a big part of my insecurity, and she said to me, I remember, she said, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
I really had a hard time answering that. I couldn't really express what I wanted because I hadn't allowed myself to even think about it. And I find this to be so true with a lot of the clients and potential clients that I talk to, is most people have stopped dreaming. They don't really know what their goals are. They don't even know what they want out of life. And that was definitely the case for me back then. And one of the things that I decided that I wanted to do was, go to college. I always wanted to go to college. And at the time, that was a huge shift because I was actually homeschooling all 4 of our kids. And I made the jump, and I actually put our kids in public school. And that was a hard decision, going from a homeschool mom to putting my kids in public school and then going to college. But one of the things that I realized, without having that freedom of being a stay-at-home mom, was that I was tired of sitting in class all day. And so I decided to take a PE class for credit. And I took a PE class at the college, and it was the first time I'd really exercised in like years, like a really long time. And I loved it. And I did not expect to love it. And the instructor there, she's amazing. And I ended up joining a gym after that semester, and it's the gym that I work at now, St. Fit, which is, I got so lucky to find that gym because
I hear it's phenomenal.
It is amazing, and I feel so blessed to be able to work there. The culture there is amazing. I remember, I did not know a single thing about weightlifting at all. And I remember walking into the gym, and, you feel that gym intimidation, which so many people feel, especially when you haven't ever been in a gym. But even if it's been a while, you always feel like somebody's looking at you, or, oh my gosh, like, what if I'm doing this wrong? And I ended up stealing someone's barbell I didn't know gym etiquette, And I ended up stealing someone's barbell who happened to be a trainer there. And he was so kind, and he came over and he helped me, and he's like, that was my barbell, by the way. I'm like, I'm so sorry. But I ended up working, I ended up buying a 6-pack of personal training sessions is what I did. And I did not have any money back then. Our marriage was kind of in a not so great place, and I didn't really have a lot of agency over our finances. But I did have a small scholarship that I got while I was going to college, and I spent that entire scholarship money on those 6 personal training sessions. And I tell people to this day, it is the best money I have ever spent. It was the most money I had ever spent on myself at the time, but it was the best money I'd ever spent on myself because it taught me how to lift weights. And that's what ignited the passion.
It gave you your power back.
It gave me my power back. That's exactly what happened. And I started to feel empowered for the first time in a very long time.
It's amazing.
And that was kind of the beginning of my journey as far as, starting to work out and to take care of myself. And it's just been a domino effect of one thing after the other since then.
So now, fast forward to now, I see some of the things that you lift. I see some of the things that you do. I think yesterday I saw a load of pull-ups. Girls don't do pull-ups. So you're cranking out pull-ups. like a strong man.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I'm going to say I've lost 80 pounds and I can crank out 2 pull-ups right now. I'm proud to be up to
Yeah.
2. You're burying me in pull-ups. I thought that was phenomenal. Like, this girl could kill me doing pull-ups right now. I bet you can kill me doing push-ups. I bet you can kill me doing sit-ups. I wouldn't want to take you on. I'm an old guy, but I still wouldn't want to. But I find that so fascinating because that's what I sense is this power and will and grit. Grit is the word that I use when I think or talk about you. This person has just grit.
Mm-hmm.
And often I run into people that they right away say, I could never do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also find that there's a Henry Ford saying, whether you think you can or you can't, you're going to be right.
So true.
And that's so true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the minute you say you can't, you've already put the stamp on it.
You're done, yeah.
So first thing you got to give yourself is a permission to believe you can.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you cannot do it at that exact moment,
Yes.
the day is coming.
Yes.
You just have to be open to that day.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see yourself doing that for the people that you've had the opportunity to work with? What does that look like now?
Mm-hmm.
Because it sounds like you're offering much more than just weightlifting training, cardio training, strength training, or even probably some therapy mixed in there. And I know we're probably not psychologists, psychiatrists. I don't know if you have a degree in any or background when you went to college. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, my associate's is in psychology, but it's
Perfect.
just an associate's.
No, but it's perfect. It's more than I have.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in psychology, and I do have a background, like I said, in ministry, and so I'm very familiar with working with people one-on-one, and just, honestly, it's a lot of listening. And so it's a combination of the background in ministry with a small amount of knowledge in psychology, but a lot of it is just applied. I tell people I don't do therapy. Like, we don't talk about your past really too much. Like, you can share with me whatever you want to, but I don't really go back into your past with you. But what I can do is I can take where you're at right now and I can help you apply everything that you can to the present moment right now to help you get your power back. So I love it when people are in therapy and working with the therapist, because a lot of those things that they are hearing from their therapist can actually be applied in a very tangible way through workouts, through your nutrition, through all of those things. And it gives you this sort of train. I tell people, like, you're training for life. Like, a lot of the time when, like I said, my background is in ministry, and we talk about truth all the time, but the awareness of the truth in your life is a whole different thing. We talk about discipline in the church, but then, where is the discipline? Where's the self-control? And you actually have something very tangible when you have a program that gets you into the gym every day, or working out. It doesn't have to be in a gym. It could be in your home. Yeah. On the days you don't feel like it, on the days that you're tired, on the days that you create these non-negotiable habits out of discipline, because this is the person that I want to become.
Can you tell us a little bit about, and again, not to interrupt you, but I'm just really curious, because again, I see that strength and I see that power. How do you treat a day that you just don't feel like it?
Yeah.
Or do you have those?
I do absolutely have those. So when you first start and you don't feel like it, you have to remember your reason why you started. First of all, you have to get really clear on your goal.
Having that why.
Having that goal. First, you have to, what do you want?
What do you want?
Like, what is it that you want? Do you, like, if you were to tell me, Jerry, that you wanted a 6-pack abs, I'd be like, cool, let's get you there. Tell me why you want it. Because that why is the key to your motivation. And if you have a weak why, you're not going to get there.
I assure you that why would be weak. That why would be weak.
Yeah, because there's a cost to it.
It's an insane cost.
There's a cost to getting you
so
a
well
6-pack.
said. So well said.
So if you have a weak why, we probably need to reevaluate. Like, what do you really want?
Yeah.
Because if you have a weak why, you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
And that's where people a lot of the time get discouraged because they're like, well, I want that. And they're not really committed to it. They're interested in it.
Yeah.
So we have to find out what you're willing to commit to.
Yeah.
And you can start with a really big picture. Like, maybe you actually do want abs, Jerry.
Yeah.
Maybe you really actually do. But
Yeah.
you're right now where you're at, not willing to pay the cost for that.
I love that.
So what are you, let's kind of shrink it back a little bit. Like,
Okay.
do you want to lose 20 pounds? Or,
No, go ahead and ask. I love it.
What is
and this could be a session.
Yeah.
I mean, a mini session.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've lost like 70 something pounds, close to 80 pounds. I still probably to be at optimal. I'm looking for optimal body weight for best performance possible.
Okay.
So I'm looking to be a 56 or maybe a 60-year-old guy that can do a marathon.
Okay.
I'm looking for that experience. I just tried to summit Mount Whitney in a day. It was a big ask. I was underhydrated, did not make it, but I'm very proud that I would even go.
Yeah.
And do it by myself, you know, and that there's a lot of pride that comes with that. So going back to six pack abs, I love what you said. I love that you said your why is not big enough for that, or what is it? Because for me to do some of the things that I want to do, I probably have to get just about that lean to be optimally healthy enough to do that.
Right.
So I know that I still need to, from a weight standpoint, I know I still need to drop about 40 pounds.
Yeah.
Which puts me probably more like 45, so I can get down to like 165. And that's a big mountain. That one I can see. That I can see that peak. The six pack, I don't know why I can't see it. You know, I've only had them once in my life, and it was for about 3 minutes. And I was 17 years old.
I was going to say, you're probably about 18, right? Yep.
And again, they just lasted for about a minute
Right.
because I was never the six pack guy.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting. But I love the way you're approaching it.
Yeah.
I really do, because you're opening my mind
Yeah.
to a possibility that I didn't even think
Yeah.
was there.
Well, and with all of our clients, both myself and Michael Gastelum, the owner of St. Fit, we do a lot of work with our clients, not just with, here's a good workout, so that's going to get you a six pack, and here's the diet plan, and, that's very cookie cutter. Like, a lot of people do that.
Well, the vanity thing hasn't worked for me.
The vanity thing doesn't work for anybody.
Okay.
If we're being really honest about it, it will work for short little periods of time, but nobody stays in the gym because they're trying to keep their it just the people who stick with it, they have a reason why, and it's much deeper than they want to impress the girl next door or something.
Fair.
So we have a lot of time with our clients where we have them journal. Like, I would have you write down
I've just started.
what your goal is,
Yeah.
what exactly you want to see. So if you're having a hard time picturing yourself with abs, we would probably give you some visualization exercises, and like what does peak performance look like to you, Jerry?
Yeah.
And get really, really clear on it, like so crystal clear. This is what I want for my life, like, and then decide. Like, that's the commitment. Really, like, okay, this is really what I want. Like, and nobody is gonna stop me from it, including myself. So then that's where we get really clear on your why. Why do you want that? Why do you want that? Like, and really tying it to some of those emotional motivators, because at the end of the day, we are not logical. People are not logical people. I could sit here and tell you why exercise is important or why you should be healthy.
You're saying we're emotional?
We are very emotional
We're
creatures.
all emotional.
We are
We're all
very
emotional.
emotional people. Everybody is. So really tying it to the emotions of why you want that, so that on those days you don't feel like getting up and going to the gym.
Yeah.
You remember that why.
Yeah.
And you're like, nope.
Yeah, I can think of my kids and my grandkids as to why I don't want to have, a year and a half ago I was ready to go into back surgery because there was so much pain.
Right.
Probably most of it driven by weight. And once I started going and saw the right person and worked on physical therapy and started eating right, and then things started to align.
Yeah.
But the why was strong, right?
Right.
The why was strong. So I love how you're bringing it to what is, how do you bring that why forward to this next level?
Yes.
Because otherwise I'm in a plateau right now, and now I can sort of hear why I'm in that plateau.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can hear, you say the marathon. You want to be in peak performance for a marathon. But I think that the marathon is like just a representation of something that you want maybe. And what you really want is to be around for your kids and your grandkids.
Absolutely.
Like that's
No,
the big
absolutely.
emotional
Well,
motivator.
I'm sort of tricking myself with these things
Yeah.
to get up in the morning.
Yes.
I'm tricking myself with these dates. Last Sunday was climb Mount Whitney,
Yeah.
highest point in the lowest 48,
Yeah.
and that was, but now there's another mountain that I need to climb, or there's
Right.
another thing that I need to do. So I kind of keep tricking myself with that. But you're right, tricking myself is only going to take me so far. Is the why is why I'm doing it. It's
Yeah.
so when I got back home the day before yesterday from that trip, my wife was there, my grandson and my granddaughter were there, and my son and daughter-in-law were there, and I can literally hold them, and my body didn't hurt, and I can spend that evening in this euphoric state of just joy.
Yeah.
It was so euphoric because I told the kids, I said, it was like not making it up that mountain at 13,250 feet, having to call it quits and turn back around. That was hell.
Yeah.
But it was from hell to heaven. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just the two opposing things, all driven by wanting to be around more.
Right.
So I love and connect with so much of what you're saying. I thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I think it's actually really smart to have those smaller goals to just
Yeah.
kind of keep you motivated.
Yeah.
But always taking it back to the why, because it's really hard to stay consistent for a lot of people. It's really hard to keep going after you've hit a plateau for a lot of people. So, and that's the other thing. That's where the coaching really becomes invaluable to a lot of people, because a lot of, especially when you're trying to lose, a good amount of weight, the simplest changes will actually bring you to a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
Dropping soda and starting to walk every day, like that could potentially give somebody the ability to lose 80 pounds depending on how much weight they have to lose.
Right.
But then there comes a point where that stops working.
Right.
And so really, it's not just about the consistency with what you're doing, it's about the comprehension of what you're doing it. So
I never thought I would learn as much about the body and its science as I have over the course of this time around, because
Right.
there's been many times around for me, and the yo-yo and the up and the down.
yeah,
I understand now that this doesn't stick unless I understand it.
right.
Unless I really have a deep understanding
Yep.
of it. And that was going to take me into the talk about nutrition a little bit. And, for me, and I love what you said, because for everybody it seems to be different. But doing something is the key. And a lot of things do work. You talk about keto, paleo,
Right.
meatitarian, pescatarian, whatever you want to call vegan, which is what I've adopted now. And for me, it's always a hard stop, and I had to come up with a drastic measure to reset myself, which was what I tell people that has worked for me, is that SOS free, meaning no sugar, oil, or salt. And I throw alcohol and caffeine into that. So 6 months ago, I literally cut all that out.
That's good.
I love it when I just love it when people say I could never do that.
Yeah.
Because I love it, because I hate it so much that I know it's such a pathetic excuse. So I hate it.
Yeah.
But I'm so used to it now that it's like, okay, here's another person. I could never. Oh, I would be so miserable. Of course you're going to be miserable, because doing anything is going to make you miserable. That is not the norm.
Yeah.
If you think eating Frosted Flakes makes you happy,
Right.
or if you believe that eating something out of a prepackaged box is something that brings joy, then you're
Right.
missing the whole thing.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you don't have to be as drastic at cutting out all your salt or all your oil or even all your sugar. But for me, that's what caused the reset. And for me, because I do believe that I have a food addiction, a real critical food addiction, I believe that resetting myself by clearing all that out of my palate
Yeah.
allows me to really go into eating the things that are better for me and the micronutrients, along then with macros. And I've also learned that I've had to supplement vegan type of protein powders, because to get the amount of protein that I need, I'm struggling getting it.
It's hard when you're vegan, yeah.
But at least it helped me lose 60 pounds in a matter.
Absolutely.
The body sheds weight so fast because the body really wants to heal itself. And if you really stop putting garbage in, the body will literally start doing its thing, and it'll start finding whatever that plateau is. But that plateau got me to lose 60 pounds in less than 3 months.
Yeah.
So now I'm out close to over 80 pounds, knowing that I have to go, and knowing that there are going to be many more plateaus along the way. But I don't crave caffeine. I don't crave anything that people think that you would miss and crave. Did it take a week or two of hell? Absolutely. Almost cold sweats, headaches, the whole thing. Because if you drink a lot of caffeine and you stop, it's going to hurt for 3 days. Hard. It's going to hurt. If you stop sugar, it's going to hurt for 7 to 10 if you cut out all your sugar. If you stop even carbohydrates and things like that, get ready. It's going to be a month or two. If you stop oils, it could be 3 or 4 months. If you cut out all this, I'm not talking avocado. I'm not talking nuts. I'm not talking healthy fats. I'm talking processed, saturated, awful, canola oil or things like that are just fake. Or monosaturated oils. So just those type of things, people all of a sudden think that we need all those things to live, and we really don't. I also respect people that will do it another way, but when it seems insurmountable is because one is already telling itself that it is insurmountable. And how can you help people or do you help people try to get over that hump?
Definitely. I mean, that's really the bulk of my work, to be honest with you. And I, you said, it is miserable. And one of my favorite quotes is by Viktor Frankl, when he says, "He who has a strong why can bear almost any how." And so that's why I do take it back to that why. Because if, like you said, if a bowl of Frosted Flakes is your most amazing part of your day, is that really that amazing that it's worth it? Like, you're kind of shortchanging yourself on what joy really is. And one of the things that we say all the time is, like, it's always purpose over pleasure. And that doesn't mean you don't have any pleasure. It just means that there's a purpose behind everything that you're doing, and that even when you have those moments where you are maybe enjoying something, that there's an intention behind it. But most of the time people live exactly the opposite of that. It's just we seek pleasure after pleasure after pleasure after pleasure, and it really leads to a great amount of unhappiness at the end of the day. And we end up in this spot where we've just dug ourselves into a hole. And a lot of my work is really helping people to climb out of that hole, that those things that you actually thought you found joy in, they're actually hurting you, and that there's so much greater on the other side of discipline and
have you ever heard of a book called The Pleasure Trap?
I have not.
Good. So I interviewed on this very podcast, I interviewed both the authors of that book, Dr. Alan Goldhammer and I can't believe it, Dr. Lyle's going to be really mad. Dr. Greg Lyle. And Goldhammer has over 3 million views on the Rich Roll podcast, just on his, they own, in Santa Rosa, they own the True North, their True North Health Center.
Oh, okay.
And they help people sort of break through this addiction to food through fasting, intermittent or fasting and different things. But the book is, I think you're so bright and so well informed when you talk about pleasure seeking foods. And the book is called The Pleasure Trap because most of what's out there is pleasure seeking, and which is what we're addicted to. It's pretty much that. So that's why they're the ones that talk about removing sugar, oil, and salt as a way to reset yourself, palates, dopamine, all this addiction that we have going on. So I would highly, highly recommend that you read that, and also maybe share it with your clients, because it's a game changer. It is. It talks about everything that you talk about. Is how we're wired to just seek that box of frosted flakes, and you just can't have one bowl.
Yeah.
You can't have. You know. You remember how? I don't know if you've ever experienced this. Me, because I'm an eater at that level. It's a race of the milk and the frosted flakes. How do you ever end the gallon of milk or the box of the frosted flakes? Because none of them ever run out, and this is what keeps us buying that product, keeps them selling more.
Yeah.
Dr. Goldhammer says that it's not designed to kill us, it's designed for them to make more money.
Right.
He's not cynical where he believes their intention is to kill humanity,
Yeah.
but it's to optimize profits.
Sure.
And they do have the scientists in the back room saying, if you put a little more sugar, they might just eat a little more.
Yeah.
And it's not a might, they will eat a little more.
Yeah. Yeah, and I generally speaking don't go into a lot of the science with most clients because I kind of let that up to some clients are super interested in it, some are not into it at all. But what I really do emphasize is, okay, well, let's fix your programming, because your programming that's pleasure. But let's change that. Let's actually change the story. Let's figure out we go back, what is it that you want? What is that version of Jerry that you want to see? Your 10.0 version of yourself. What does he look like? What does he talk like? What kind of energy does he have? And then we work backwards from that. So does that Jerry eat Frosted Flakes every night before he goes to bed? Does he eat 5 bowls? Probably not.
Right.
And if you can hold that vision in your mind, you already know intuitively what to do when you can hold that vision in your mind. And so then it becomes, okay, now you just have to have the will in order to do that. And then if you can start to establish some of the habits that it takes to, get to that version of you, it's really about uncovering you. It's not that Jerry is so far away.
Yeah.
It's about just uncovering a lot of that conditioning, a lot of that programming that comes, just through the media or past Trump, whatever it might be. It doesn't even matter. We are just shedding those layers so that we can get to that version of you that you are and you want to be, so that you can show up for the people in your life that you love. And so what does that Jerry do? Does he wake up every morning and does he work out? He probably does. Does he eat a healthy breakfast? He probably does. And you start to work backwards. And sometimes that feels overwhelming for people. Like, oh, I could never do that. Well, then we take it back a step and we go, okay, well, maybe you can't do the 5 things. Let's just focus on the one thing.
And I believe it's hard to do it all at once.
It is hard.
I do believe
most
it's
people
hard.
Can't do it all at once.
It's almost unreasonable to ask somebody to do it. Yeah.
And depending on how, what your perception on what's difficult, just depend. It's so dynamic.
But what's so cool is it stacks on itself. I mean, literally, it's a foundation.
Absolutely.
And if you lay it right,
Yep.
It's amazing how it just starts building and build. I mean, the things that I started with 6 or 8 months ago compared to what I'm doing now, and the way that I got up in the morning 6 or 8 months ago compared to what I do to get up with a practice every single day by adding a little bit of something every 2 to 3 weeks, it's fascinating. I mean, I sauna probably 5 times a week. I mean, I never imagined that I would sauna once a week.
Right.
Because I also understand the science behind it. I understand the benefits of sauna. I do sauna with ice cold showers right after.
Yeah.
But I've never had anything make my brain feel so good.
Right.
And literally sheds all this weight of anxiety, depression, all the things that I've struggled with all my life, because I know how to regulate myself naturally in a way that I never did before.
Right.
But it didn't all start at the same time. It literally just started with visiting somebody like you, who's become a lifelong friend, and now I think we're going to go in 2 months. We're going to go summit Mount Whitney together, he and I, because he was so inspired by me doing it. He says, "Dude, I just want to go do this with you.
That's cool.
I want to help you get your nutrition on track."
Yeah.
He says, "There's so many hacks that you can do, and there's a little bit different training that we're going to do this together." But I also look forward to doing an ultra marathon with him one day. I have big goals and big dreams. If I never get to an ultra marathon, who cares? That means that I've done some marathons.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or I may have done some half marathons.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I'm living in the present of what that future looks like. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what you said is brilliant, which is because it causes so much joy with those who are around me right now, living in this state of balance and health,
Yep.
which I've never felt before to this degree, ever, ever.
Yeah.
You know, which has led me to you, you know, in an interesting way, just with the way that you carry yourself and how you put yourself out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
No, I think it's really cool once you start to actually, you know, see what happens when you just start down this path. And, you know, I love the sauna. I love the cold showers. The hot cold therapy is amazing. And you know, I can hear people maybe even listening who are like, well, I don't have a sauna, or I don't have, you know.
Right, it's true.
It doesn't matter, though, because there are a lot of things that you can do that you can have your own body and nothing else.
Yeah.
And you can start working on your self-regulation, like you said.
Yeah. Breath work is something that I've started to do that. It's been amazing.
You know, one of the things I always joke, like, I don't know hardly any person in the world that likes burpees.
Yeah, I don't either.
I personally do not like burpees, but you know, it's one of those hard exercises that
that hits everything.
It hits everything, and the thing is about specifically for me, it could be different for everybody, but burpees are hard enough for me that if I'm having a moment where I'm feeling very anxious about something, one of the best ways to deal with anxiety is to get out of your head and back into your body. Kind of kick your own butt a little bit.
I love it.
And so I always joke with my clients, like, if you see me doing burpees, one of two things happen. I got roped into them by somebody, or I'm having a time of anxiety.
Yeah.
And so you don't know which one is going on necessarily, but one of those, because I would not choose to do burpees on my own. But my point to that is, there are a million ways that you can start to manage your own energy. And if you have literally nothing except you and a floor, you can start with that.
I agree. And does anybody in Napa have a cold plunge? Somebody told me that there is a massage place that has one, and they also have an infrared sauna, which where I go, there's not an infrared sauna. It's just an old traditional sauna. But
I'm not even sure, to be honest with you.
I want to check it out. I've done cold plunges. Recently, I went to Vegas, and one of the hotels had, and it was legit. It was legit.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay for more than a few seconds. I mean, it's hard.
I love I've only done a handful of them, but they are an experience for sure. And when I've done them, they've just been in a simple, like, horse trough with actual ice water.
It's gotta hurt.
Oh, it's very painful. But the really cool thing for me is if I just focus on my breath.
It's a key.
And if I can just be there, and that you cannot think about anything else.
Yeah.
Like, we're always struggling to be present in the moment, right? When you throw yourself into an ice bath,
you're going to be present.
You're going to be right there.
You're going to be right. You're going to be right there where you are.
Yep. So it's one of those things where it's just this eye-opening experience.
It's one of the few things that literally brings you to you fast.
Yeah, you have to confront your own body and your own
reaction,
response system.
Fight or flight.
You have to breathe.
Yeah.
And it's really good. I think it was really good for me, just speaking from my own experience, because, you know, I have gone through a lot of trials. I've walked through hell and back.
The trauma. It's great for trauma.
It's great for trauma because you start to trust yourself more. And you can be like, okay, I can do this. And it's really about that breath and being present. And I do that more often, more regularly with lifting, honestly. It's one of the reasons why I love lifting heavy, is because that sense of accomplishment. You have to be present when you're deadlifting 300 pounds off the ground.
So let me ask you this. What are you doing Saturday?
What am I doing Saturday?
It's not weird. It's not weird at all. What are you doing Saturday?
I don't usually make too many plans.
Okay, so I'm going to gift you something.
Okay.
I might even be there. I better be there. Because I'm putting it out there that I'm going to be there. I'm trying to get my wife, Susan. Did Susan already go? Susan did. Susan went on the last one with me, so maybe she'll go again. A friend of mine goes by Shanty Cat, She's a masterful yoga breathing instructor.
Mm-hmm.
And she's getting back from Italy like tomorrow, the next day. But I know Saturday she's having one at her house.
Oh, okay.
And she'll host 10 to 15 people there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to buy yours for Saturday
Okay.
as a thank you for doing this with me. I'd love for you to do it.
Okay.
I think you would love it. I think you would love it. And she's somebody you can watch one of the episodes is with Kat, who I've known forever.
Okay.
And she's another person that I'm very happy to be friends with because she's also somebody who figured out how to get off the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Also a powerful
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
But she figured out how to get off the hamster wheel and really experience life in a much more meaningful way. And it's cool just to know her. Now she
Yeah.
has a great boyfriend and they're traveling the world and having
That's
a lot of
cool.
fun. But I'd love for her to meet you. It would be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
So I just, maybe you're pretty much, you're working for the Santa Helena Health Club, which goes by the name
Saint Fit.
Saint Fit. Very bougie.
No.
No?
No.
Not bougie?
No, not bougie.
I'm glad to hear that there's something in
No.
Santa Helena not bougie.
Oh, no. We're not bougie. We call ourselves the People's Gym.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank
No,
goodness.
we are super down to earth.
Thank goodness.
No.
You're not like the Santa Helena Spa or
No.
Spa in Napa Valley,
No,
whatever it's called.
we're a straight up gym.
Good.
Bodybuilding style probably is
Good.
if you tried to put us in a little box. But we have a variety of clientele, like, anywhere from 15 to 85, and very down to earth, not bougie at all. We have showers and lockers.
That's bougie enough for me. So I wanna make sure that on the show notes I put how people can get a hold of you. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'd love for people to get a hold of you.
Yes.
I also know that you have this business on the site. I also understand that you have 4 kids. Again, that's what I said. We have that in common. What are the ages now?
22, 19, 18, and 16.
Wow. So thank God you did like us. They were pretty close.
Yep.
You're even closer than us because we're 10 years apart from oldest to youngest.
When my youngest was born, my oldest was 6. So I
Yeah,
had
so
it
yours were really close.
really close. It was.
But that's good.
It was mayhem back then,
Yeah.
and I barely remember those years. But
I always say, Susan used to, for a while there, she dropped off four schools in the morning and picked up 4 schools in the afternoon. And then you have baseball, ballet, and everything
Yeah.
in the middle.
Yeah, no, there's a whole. I remember going to a dinner party when my youngest was like 6, and I felt like I had been out for the. I felt like I crawled out of a cave. And I remember someone saying like, "Oh, you've been missing from the world for a while." I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I have." And when they're little, you're on demand all the time. And now they're older and they're growing up. And my youngest son just graduated from high school in St. Helena on Friday.
Congratulations.
So, yeah.
Wow, so your youngest is...
So I have one
Oh,
younger
daughter.
than him.
You have
Yeah,
a daughter.
my youngest is a daughter. Yeah, and
You have 3 boys and 1 girl?
yeah.
Same as us. But the girl's not the youngest. She's next to the youngest.
Okay. Yeah.
We used to always say, and I'll have to apologize to her later. We used to say we had 3 boys, but with Alana is 6. Because the girl was like all 3 boys put together. She was a handful.
Yeah.
How's your girl?
She's good.
She's easy?
Yeah, she's pretty chill.
Who's the spiciest one?
Yeah, I feel like they all take turns.
They're all-
honestly. When one acts up, the
Yeah,
other ones are chill, and then somebody else takes the turn.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, I think we can stop on that. I'm really happy to get to have gotten to know you better.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. But I would say if people are trying to get a hold of me and want to know, Instagram,
Good.
I'm Queen Vee with Queen
VEE. Oh.
VEE. Yeah, Queen 3_ V 3_. And then my gym is Saint Fit 1 on Instagram, but both of those places have the same websites too, so you can find me on there.
I'll put the links
Okay.
too, so people can find
Yeah.
you for sure. This is so cool.
Yeah.
And some of the opportunities that we have coming our way, I think it's going to be so cool to introduce you. I'm hoping that you'd be open to maybe doing a demo class one day, or we can do something even from a gym. If we can't use your gym, we can use my friend's gym, or we can do something really cool.
Sure.
To say, here's what or here's what something looks like without weights.
Right.
50 minutes
Yeah.
of what you can do for yourself, and then do a Q&A, or something kind of cool.
Yeah.
That just helps people just get started.
Yeah.
Just getting started, I think, is the key, and that's
I
what took
agree.
me the longest time to do.
And the hardest part is just taking that first step, really. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Pleasure. That was awesome. Thank you.